Hi everyone, I'm Chong Wen for Gotta Be Mobile, and in this video we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, which I have here on my left hand side. In this particular video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hardware features of the Galaxy Note 3 and compare it to the Galaxy Note 2. Additionally, we're going to briefly cover some of the main software features and enhancements that Samsung has made to the TouchWiz user interface on top of the Android 4.3 operating system. Be sure to watch our other videos in this video review series of the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 to see in greater detail about the software on the Note 3. Let's go ahead and get started with the Note 3's hardware. On the front of the device, you're going to see immediately that the front is dominated by a 5.7-inch Full HD Super AMOLED display. So this 5.7-inch has the same 1080p HD resolution that many people have on their much larger HD TV at home in their living room. What this translates to is that colors are bright and vivid, texts are crystal clear and sharp, and the display is just gorgeous to look at. The display size has increased from a 5.5-inch display on the Note 2, which has a 720p display. So immediately, if you're upgrading from a Note 2, you're going to notice that the display on the Note 3 is just gorgeous and super crisp. Yet, despite increasing the display size on the Note 3, when you're looking at both devices side by side, you're going to notice that the Note 3 and the Note 2 both have the same height, while the Note 3 on the left-hand side is a little bit more narrow in width. And it's also a little bit more slim in thickness, and it's a little bit lighter in weight as well, so it gives the Note 3 a very nice feeling. Also, when you're taking a look at the design of the device, when you turn it over and look at the back, Samsung has done away with its glossy back panels which attract fingerprint and opted instead to use a warm touch material on the Note 3. In this case, Samsung calls it a faux leather finish that's trimmed around the edges with some stitching, and from what I can tell, it's just a plastic finish that Samsung has done. So it's done a terrific job in maintaining a premium feel to the device, while at the same time giving power users access to the battery and a micro SD card slot underneath the rear cover. Additionally, this soft subtle curves on the Galaxy Note 2's device with this chrome or fake chrome here, you can see it's subtly curved, is replaced with a more angled design. So here you're going to see straight edges with subtly rounded corners, and also this nice plastic trim which looks like a polished piece of metal actually has striations or grooves in it to make it feel just luxurious in the hands. So Samsung has done a great job to add a premium finish to the Note 3 while at the same time preserving some of the accessibility features that power users like, such as a back battery cover that's still removable to reveal a very large 3200 milliamp hour battery, which gives the device over a day of usage if you're a moderate user, along with a micro SD card slot. The Note 3 this year comes with 32 gigabytes of storage, which is double from what the Note 2 ships with at the base model, and then you also have the ability to add up to a 64 gigabyte storage card slot as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the device. Just go around the device and take a look at some of the hardware. At the top, you're going to have a 3.5mm headphone jack with a noise cancellation microphone right next to it. On the other side, you're going to see a infrared blaster, which is used to control your home audio or video equipment in your living room with the Watch On application, which turns the Note 3 into a touchscreen remote control for your living room. On the right hand edge, you're going to see a power button, and towards the bottom here, you're going to notice that there's another noise cancellation microphone. On the bottom edge, there's going to be a lot going on here with a microphone here. And then new to this device, or this device series, is a micro USB 3.0 slot. So this micro USB 3.0 actually charges and syncs the device faster when you're plugging it into a USB 3.0 port on your laptop or your PC, and the plug is wider this year, so it accommodates extra pins to accommodate the faster data transfer speeds. In reality, you're not going to notice any difference in charging time when you're plugging the device into a wall outlet. So, and also another nice thing about the USB or micro USB 3.0 port is that it's backward compatible with existing micro USB 2.0 ports. So you can just go ahead and plug it in. It's not going to benefit from the faster data transfer rates if you're plugging it into a USB 3.0 port on your computer. Also new is that rather than placing the speaker on the bottom back, Samsung has now moved the speaker down here towards the side edge on the bottom, so it actually amplifies the sound towards you if you're laying the phone flat on a tabletop, rather than be muffled if you're laying it down on the back surface like this. And at the top, you saw a blue blinking LED notification light. So the device does come with a notification light as well as a 2.0 megapixel front-facing camera. On the back, you have a 13 megapixel camera that was introduced on the Galaxy S4 earlier this spring, along with a single LED flash. The camera can also record on certain variants, including the model here that I'm reviewing in the US for T-Mobile US, 4K video, which has added resolution power compared to the full 1080p HD videos. So with 4K resolution, you're going to need a 4K display, 4K laptop, or 4K HD TV or UHD TV monitor to actually benefit from the added pixel resolution. So unless you have those to view the content captured, I would recommend sticking with a 1080p video recording just to maintain a decent amount of storage on the phone without going overboard. Like the Galaxy Note 2 and the Samsung Galaxy S4, you're going to see the TouchWiz user interface. And this year what's new is that by default, the main apps page, Samsung has consolidated all the pre-installed apps. So by default, you're only going to see one page of apps, and then you can go ahead and download additional apps from the Google Play Store. So here I have more apps, but essentially when you first power on the phone, you're just going to see this page of apps and nothing more, which is a nice change from earlier devices where Samsung has installed a lot of bloatware onto the device. In order to maintain a manageable amount of apps and still contain it in one page, Samsung has put most of the main apps into folders. So here you're going to have a Samsung folders with some of the main system apps. Watch On is on here, which is the app that controls the infrared blaster, and it's used as a graphical way of connecting and controlling your home TV. I'm not going to go ahead and set it up right now. And then there's a Google Apps where all the Google applications lay. A Galaxy Plus app. These are some of the enhanced applications that come pre-bundled for free on the Galaxy Note 3. So on certain versions, you're going to get 50 gigabytes of free cloud storage through Dropbox. You're going to get Bloomberg Plus for additional content, a sketchbook for Galaxy for artists who prefer to draw with a pen. And then T-Mobile, since this is a T-Mobile Carrier Edition, you're going to get a T-Mobile app with select content from that carrier as well. This year with the S Pen on the bottom, the nice part about the pen is that you can now activate the capacitive buttons on the bottom of the display with the pen. That was something that was missing on the Galaxy Note 2. So if you're drawing or writing on the screen, you're going to have to switch between your fingers to activate the capacitive buttons here on the bottom. Additionally, when you're removing the pen out of its silo, as you saw earlier, is that now there's a new command. So the Air command is a new option that comes on the Galaxy Note 3, and it has 5 new functions through this radio dial that you can access with your pen. So new are Action Memo, Scrapbooker, Screen Write, S Finder, and Pen Window, which we're going to discuss in greater details in a separate video, so be sure to tune into that one. Also, once you open up the settings menu here, you're going to see that Samsung has included a number of the features that, these are motion or touchless features that were enabled on the Galaxy S4 earlier this year. Some of those features are genuinely useful, others are superfluous, and it just depends on what type of user you are if those features are useful or not useful to you. But you do have access to all of the features that are on the Galaxy S4, including some of the motion controls. So you can go ahead and, if you're on a long web page, just swipe your hand over the screen to go ahead and flip or scroll through the pages as well. There are air gestures, and the display will automatically stay lit or bright as it is right now if you're looking at it, because it's always sensing your face or your eyes looking at the screen with the front-facing camera. Additionally, there are other features, and Samsung also has an increased touch sensitivity setting. So like on the Galaxy S4, you can use the screen with gloves on, which is nice since this phone is launching in the fall time. So users in colder climate who would need gloves in the winter can use this phone with light or thinner gloves on. And like the Galaxy Note 2, one of the hallmarked features of this device is the multi-window view, which we can go ahead and activate. And this allows you to multitask. And this time, unlike with the Galaxy Note 2, one of the new features is that you can go ahead and launch 2 applications at the same time. So I have chat on the bottom, and now I can go ahead and launch a second chat on the top. So this way it gives you a lot more flexibility and the ability to multitask. So these are just some of the software features that are enabled on TouchWiz. And to compete with HTC's Blink feed, which aggregates news and social media content, Samsung had traditionally included a Flipboard application on the Galaxy Note series. But this year, if you go ahead and press on the home button from the main home screen, what you're going to see is that this year there's a new, this new application is called My Magazine, and it's essentially made by Flipboard. And it gives you just different cover stories, and it also gives you, I think I launched, here we go. So it gives you access to 4 different categories. So you have the news, and you can go ahead and scroll through different news items that you select. It also aggregates the personal content on your phone. So if you have missed calls, notifications, calendar alerts, even your S Health and some of your gallery applications as well. Here and Now gives you access to the content or the activities that are going on around you right now. So local movie listings, events, and things to explore around town. There's also a social hub here that gives you access to various content through your social network. What's curious is that although this is very similar to Flipboard and is actually made by Flipboard, the social hub actually only integrates a limited number of social networks. Flipboard actually also integrates all of these along with the Facebook for your Facebook wall posts. Unfortunately, on this one, it's a little confusing and Facebook is not included here, but it is still included on the original Flipboard, which is also pre-installed on the Note 3. And to configure this, all you would have to do is launch the menu button here at the top, and then if you hit the arrow, it's going to give you options to add whatever content you desire that's available to select from. So this is Samsung's response to HTC's Blink feed, which debuted on the Galaxy or on the HTC One, which gives you a more visual way to interact with some of your personal content. So this is a quick look of the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. The version I'm reviewing is from T-Mobile US. It does have a quad-core Snapdragon 800 processor along with 3 gigs of RAM, so multitasking should be a cinch. Stay tuned and watch our next video on some of the software features and some of the features that are enabled with the S Pen on the Galaxy Note 3. I'm Chung Win for Gotta Be Mobile. Thanks for watching, and until next time, please visit us on gottabemobile.com for additional content and coverage.
The high-end phones from LG, HTC, and Samsung really get a positive rap, but one that's forgotten about from time to time, at least in the US, Sony. Their new flagship device, the Sony Xperia Z1, is in the office, and I'm doing a full review. HTC, Samsung, and LG, at least in the Android field, get quite a positive rap for the most part, in the US market because they're the dominant Android providers, at least in the US space. But Sony has some incredible Android smartphones, and that trend continues with the Sony Xperia Z1, the newest iteration, and Sony's Z line and the newest high-end flagship from the OEM. This thing is packed to the gills with specifications. Everything looks great on this phone. 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of internal storage with a micro SD card slot. You got Android 4.2 Jelly Bean over here. You got a 2.2 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU. You got a 5-inch 1080p HD display with 441 pixels and 1080 by 1920 pixels. Or I should say 441 pixels per inch. 1080 by 1920 pixels. There we go. I knew something sounded wrong about that, but you can see it does have a little bit of bezel to it, and that was a point that people made in the unboxing video, but for the most part, this is an incredibly high-end smartphone with 8.5 millimeters of thinness, thin goodness on this device. Very thin device despite being water resistant, dust resistant, and packing a 3,000 milliamp hour non-removable battery underneath this back surface. I mean, you're packing a huge battery in this device, nice large 5-inch display, water resistance, dust resistance, and at least, hey, on T-Mobile even, LTE capabilities, all in this tiny package is 8.5 millimeters thin. That's good all around as far as I'm concerned. But before we get too far into the X1 review video, I want to thank our partners at Best Buy Mobile because they give us phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll make sure you set up your email, your contacts, your web. So when you walk out the door, you're good to go, and you're set up, and you don't have to waste the time doing all that thanks to Best Buy Mobile. So let's jump right in. X1 full review. And this is one of the other devices coming out on the market, one of the newer ones to pack, the Snapdragon 800 CPU. And you can see Sony's user interface, formerly called Timescape, over on this device. And there have been some pretty substantial changes to the overall look and feel of Sony's user interface here. And you can see them all throughout the actual system. So I'll just dive in, talk a little bit about some of the customizations that I enjoy and appreciate, and we'll pick up in part 2 talking more about that. We'll do some speed tests, some camera settings tests, and more because this thing's packing a 20.7 megapixel camera with 1080p HD recording, and it's worth taking a look at. But before we go into software, I want to show you the hardware of the device itself. It very much resembles the Xperia Z over here. You got your power button, your volume rocker on the right side, camera shortcut button down here at the bottom. Over here, your micro SIM card slot with a flap protecting it, and then over here you've got your micro SD card slot, your micro USB charging port, an area for a dock, and I should have pointed out back here just a second ago, a lanyard hole as well. Down here at the bottom, speakers, and then up top, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And that is that. So still a very solid, beautiful looking device, but overall design language is very similar to the Sony Xperia Z and even the Z Ultra, despite having a massive 6.44 inch display. Out of the box, you get the typical Sony stuff here. You can see album rather. You can see all these little games that came with this particular version. And I want to stop for a second and thank GSM Nation for letting us have this device to review. Special thanks to them. You can pick this phone up right here at the link, take a look at that, and you can buy it from GSM Nation and get it shipped pretty quickly to you if you want this device. I should point out, it works on LTE on T-Mobile, does not work on LTE on AT&T, so keep that in mind if you're looking to buy that. So over here, Little Big City, a bunch of different little games and things that came with this particular version that's unlocked. But you got movies, you got, what else? Sony Select, Social Life, Track ID, Update Center, Walkman, Xperia Lounge, Xperia Privilege, and more. So a couple of different options there. And of course, Sony's award-winning ecosystem, Walkman, album, movies, and Sony Select all pre-installed on this device itself. Now, Timescape within itself runs really quickly on this device, and I just called it Timescape, and it's not called Timescape anymore, but old habits die hard. Is that right? I think that's right. Settings here, wireless and networks, device, you've got personal, accounts, system, and more. So you can see all your settings here and a lot of different customization options. And even Sony in the recent years, they've done a very good job integrating their ecosystem into the user interface. So Xperia connectivity, for example, you can see here, throw settings. I can play content on my device on other devices. So for example, I can take content from the Xperia Z1 and put it on something else. Screen mirroring here, I can mirror it on the TV as it sounds like. DualShock wireless controllers, we saw that stuff. I believe it's CES, if I recall. Start mirror link, USB connectivity, and of course media server settings. But then you get a nice little wealth of personalization on the design, or on the device I should say as well, with theme, wallpaper, lock screen, and quick settings. Quick settings is one of my favorites because oftentimes when I look at these quick settings, I think I don't really use Wi-Fi that often. I actually hate using Wi-Fi on my phone. I much prefer carrier data as opposed to Wi-Fi. I like to keep it on that, don't like switching back and forth, so I don't use Wi-Fi a whole lot. So I kicked it down here to the very bottom. I use airplane mode all the time because very rarely am I not in an airplane traveling somewhere for work. So I kicked that one on and I can move it up and down, so I can move it into the first slot. For example, when I go back, you'll see that airplane is moved over to this side of the quick toggles now in the notifications bar area. You can do wallpaper lock screen stuff as well. I can change my wallpapers here, and we can select, just for example, let's do this one. Set that wallpaper. I can select my home wallpaper. I can change my theme as well, which gives me the color options, different color theme options, and that's a nice little feature that I've appreciated on this unit. Green happens to be my favorite color, so I have it selected as earth, but you can come down here and go through and select, heat, silk, sunny, Xperia, air, and more. You'll notice on-screen buttons here as well, back, home, and recent applications, and this is another really cool thing that I like on the Xperia devices, the more recent Xperia devices. You've got quick applications here that I can launch. If, for example, I can come in here and do a notepad, drag it down, I can remove it from the favorites if I want to, or I can just click it and it'll start right up on my desktop. So these are multitasking based applications. I can move this around the screen as much as I want to. And it isn't quite as organized as, let's say, the Galaxy S4, the Galaxy Note 3, Galaxy Note 2, etc., because I like the way that those individually take up the whole screen, and you can either move the wall up and down depending on how much you want to allocate to that particular app. So, for example, on the Note 2 or the Note 3, if you have Notepad and browser open, you can say, well, I don't really need more than 2 lines of the Notepad. I really want most of it to be browser. It's not as organized here. It's kind of harder to line these up, for example, up top and get them just as you want them to be, and then come down here and select another quick app, for example, like browser, and try to line them up, perfectly where they're like perfectly not on top of each other. You can see they kind of do sit on top of each other, but still a great multitasking option here, and it does compete with other units on the market. So I've got the browser here as well. I'll go ahead and type in phonedog.com and take a look at T-Mobile's LTE, which historically doesn't do very well in my office, but you can see PhoneDog loading up right here, and I can move that back and forth, move it around as I see fit, get rid of Notepad if I want to, and use this while I'm running in the background, run through the applications as you see here. So still multitasking on this device, not necessarily the same though as we've seen on the Galaxy devices and some of the other units, some of LG's options as well. So phonedog.com loaded here, and speaking of, let's take a look at the Sony Xperia keyboard here. It has been modified and changed. Overall, I find it to be pretty easy to type on. I do have some challenges from time to time. For example, we'll actually jump into messaging here and take a look. But portrait to landscape is fast. Everything's zippy on this device. You got little to no lag. And I could say, Brown Fox is happy that it is Monday. Brown Fox is happy that it is Monday. This thing vibrates quite a bit, so you may want to turn the vibration off if you type on a regular basis, and that bugs you. It sounds like a motorbike almost starting up. But other than that, pretty pleased with autocorrect and things of that nature, and you've got a nice numeric keypad and commonly used symbols over on this side. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll talk more about network connectivity, camera, and we'll do some quadrant standard and speed tests as well to see how this thing performs in addition to other features and other settings highlighted in part 2. Stay tuned for part 2 of the Xperia Z1 video review.